monkeys. Tonight, I'm going to read you one of my very favorite stories. It's called The Bee Tree, and it's by Patricia Polacco. And I love her so much that this book is actually signed by her because I went to like a book signing. Yeah, I drugged my husband to one of those things that he's like, who are we going to go see? And I'm like, oh, we're going to go see Patricia Polacco because she's my favorite author. And he was like, yeah, that's great. But he went. I also wanted you to notice that I noticed when I was doing my videos that the background is just so drab. So I put up this beautiful backdrop. So now I'm probably going to have to repaint because this is my living room. But, whatever. You guys are worth it. So this story is called The Bee Tree. And it has a very good lesson in it about books and about how important books are. So let's see if you can figure out what the lesson is. I'm tired of reading, Grandpa, Mary Ellen sighed. I'd rather be outdoors running and playing. So you don't feel like reading, eh? You feel like running, do you? Then I expect this is just the time to find a bee tree, he said, taking down a jar and putting on his lucky hat. What's a bee tree, Grandpa? Mary Ellen asked. Well, it's where the bees make their home. It's where they keep the honey, the sweetest of the land. Grandpa chirped excitedly. But we already have honey, Grandpa, Mary Ellen said. But not honey like this, her grandpa answered with a wink. Honey. Let's see what they're going to try to catch. Mary Ellen and her grandpa put on their coats and went outdoors. They walked down past the hollyhocks to the garden and found bees gathering pollen from the flowers. Her grandpa carefully trapped some in the glass jar, making sure not to hurt them. But he was sure that he had enough. He smiled and he leaned close to Mary Ellen. They'll take the pollen back to the hive to make it into honey, and we'll be right behind them. Then he slowly loosened the lid of the jar, let one single bee escape. It stayed on the mouth of the jar for a little bit and flew straight up and then buzzed toward the cornfield. Quick, now run! Grandpa called out as he began to chase the bee. They're going to chase it. I'm going to see if it'll take them back to the hive. Just then, Mrs. Govlog down the creek way was walking baby Sylvester in his carriage. Mary Ellen and her grandpa ran by them. We're off to find a bee tree today, Grandpa shouted. Oh, I haven't done that since I was a girl, Mrs. Govlog said excitedly. May I come too? Grandpa motioned for her to follow, and the three of them were off and running. Baby Sylvester laughed out loud as his carriage bumped and bounced through the rows of corn. Honk went a goose as it waddled after them. As they came from the cornfield and crossed Diaz Junction, Einar Tundevold came around the bend on his squeaky old bike. Where are you all going in such a hurry, he asked. A bee tree, Mary Ellen puffed as the foursome scurried by. Chasing a bee to its tree, this is something I would like to do also, he said, and he pedaled faster. The wheels of his bike went tweedle, tweedle, squeak, and their boots slapped the ground, and the buggy pitched and swayed, and the goose honked as they ran after that bee. The bee swooped down, stopped, held in midair, and then circled past them again, straight for the St. Joe River. I hope they don't jump in the river. That'd be crazy. Olaf Lughagen was strolling on the nearby shore with the charming Herman sisters, Petri and Dorma. Looked up and they noticed the commotion coming toward them. Where are you all going? He called out. To a bee tree we are going, said Einar, puffed as he pedaled by. Can we come too? The two lovely ladies pleaded. Fast! You'll have to run fast, said Einar. We don't care. Let's go, the three shouted as they raced after him. Slap, bump, honk, tweedle, tweedle, squeak, thump. They all went as they sped down the road after that bee. Klondike, Bertha Fitchworth, just back from an expedition in the Yukon, had car trouble next to the road. She looked up just in time to see everybody running by. You say you're after a bee tree, she shrieked. Zounds, that would be easy, but Eureka, what an adventure! She sprinted along behind them. The bee dipped and it soared as it made its way out of sight. But Grandpa carefully let out another one, and the chase was on again. The noisy merry bunch galloped over the Bird Talk Fellow Ridge, only to run smack dab into Fiducious Longdrop's herd of goats. The goats bleated and bucked as the people clambered through them. What ho? Fiduciary called out. You're going to scare me goats. A bee tree, a voice called back. And with that, Fiduciary tooted his flute, and he and his flock joined the chase, bounding billies. This will be great, he said on a dead run. Bounding billies, like goats, that's funny. 3 traveling musicians looked up just in time to see a thundering stampede of goats, buggies, people, and bikes coming straight for them. Why are they all running, Pa? One of the boys asked his father. We're after that bee, Grandpa said, pointing at the small dot in the sky. It's leading us to a bee tree, Mary Ellen wailed as she shrieked by them. Come on! Klondike Bertha chortled as she huffed past. Slap, bop, bleat, honk, tweedle, tweedle, squeak, flop. They went as they ran. Hoofs clattered, rows of corn were parted. Nothing really mattered but chasing that bee. They ran through Grainer's Bluff and into Bishop's Meadow, around Dead Man's Tree, and then to Bird Talk Hollow. They must be really fast, because bees are really fast. As they ran down the hollow, the bee took blinding speed and disappeared from their sight. They all stopped to catch their breath just in front of Dunk's Woods. Grandpa handed the jar with the last bee in it to Mary Ellen. She let it out. Sure enough, it flew straight and low and right into Dunk's Woods. It's the bee tree, Grandpa whispered. That's where the honey will be, but we'll need plenty of smoke. Now they got to get the honey out, right? Because you can't stick your hand in there with all those bees in there. Everyone set about to build a smoke fire from twigs and damp leaves. When the smoke had quieted the bees, Grandpa balanced on Enar's bicycle and reached into the tree. As he pulled out small pieces of honeycomb, he dropped them into some of baby Sylvester's spare clean diapers that Klondike Bertha was holding. Mary Ellen tied them into neat little bundles, and Mr. Lunghagen put them into the baby carriage. The musicians played merrily as the Herman sisters danced. See, so everybody had a job. Gramps invited everyone back to the house for baking powder biscuits, fresh brewed tea, and of course, the honey. There was music, dancing, tales, and ruckus laughter as they all buzzed about the sweet adventure of the day. Grandpa took Mary Ellen inside away from the crowd. Now, child, I am going to show you what my father showed me and his father before him, he said quietly, and he spooned the honey into the cover of one of her books. Taste. And almost in a whisper, Mary Ellen savored that honey on the book. There is such sweetness inside of that book, too, he said thoughtfully. Such things, adventure, knowledge, wisdom. But these things do not come easily. You have to pursue them. Just like we ran after the bees to find their tree, so you must chase these things through the pages of a book. And then he smiled and he hugged her. Grandpas are so smart. From that day on, Mary Ellen never again complained about her reading. She found it to be every bit as exciting as a wild chase through the Michigan countryside and as sweet as the honey from a bee tree. And reading is sweet and fun and wonderful. And I hope you have a wonderful weekend, actually, because this is Friday. We have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you on Monday for our Easter stuff.